Thank you very much, Jason. Good evening. I'm delighted to be with you tonight to honor a truly stellar volunteer in Ontario Life Sciences, Dr. Alison Symington. The LSO Volunteer Award is presented to an active volunteer in Ontario Life Sciences community volunteer sciences community who receives no remuneration for their work and who supports and adds energy to life sciences initiatives and events and has paid his or her membership dues. So anyone who has any intentions of being considered for next year, please make sure you see Sue before you leave. Many of you know her as an excellent scientist at Connaught Laboratories, which eventually became Sanofi Pasteur, where she helped shape the minds of many scientists, together with her work with the students whose minds she helped for many years to shape their careers. Others still know her for her work in the NGO space as Executive Director of the Biosciences Education Canada or with Ontario Genomics. Personally, I have known Alison both as a wonderful colleague at Sanofi Pasteur for even longer as a dedicated volunteer for Sanofi Biogenius student program. She served with me as a fellow judge at the National Judging Panel at the National Research Council for over a decade. I am pleased to consider her as a valuable colleague and also as a friend. Of course, many of us here in this audience know her for her work at the LSO, where she has been a truly phenomenal volunteer for this great organization. For the past 2 decades, Alison has been a tireless advocate for STEM education, a mentor to students, and a key volunteer in our life sciences ecosystem. Amongst her many volunteer contributions, she chairs LSO's Knowledge and Networking Breakfast Committee and often serves as a moderator for these meetings. Through her membership on the LSO Board of Directors, she dedicates a large amount of her personal time to fundraising and community outreach. She also sits on the LSO's policy and government relations and Gala committees. But it doesn't stop there. Dr. Symington's professional life has also been a further outlet for her incredible volunteerism within our sector. Through her professional pursuits, Alison has contributed countless hours through her involvement with the Science and Technology and Awareness Network, her teaching and advisory role in Seneca College Regulatory Affairs Program, and her past work as Executive Director of the Biosciences Education Canada and the VP Research and Corporate Development of Ontario Genomics. Our sector simply could not continue to grow and blossom without the contributions of volunteers like Dr. Symington, and it's incredibly important that we recognize them in venues such as this one today. William Shakespeare wrote, quote, "I can no answer make, but thanks and ever thanks," unquote. Alison, on behalf of the LSO, thank you for your tireless work and your generous commitment of time and energy and such an outstanding volunteer. You surely add energy to the life sciences initiatives and events in Ontario and are so richly deserving of this award. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in congratulating and welcoming to the stage the 2017 recipient of the LSO Volunteer Award, Alison Symington.
I hardly know what to say after that introduction. Thank you very much, Louis. But as most of you know, I always can find a few words. So thank you, Louis. And I'd also like to express my thanks to the members of LSO and the board of LSO for this recognition. But to be honest, I know that almost everybody here is actually a volunteer. But maybe you don't call it that. So maybe you're called a coach, or you donate blood, or maybe you're called the school yearbook editor for your local school, or all the other things that everybody does when they volunteer. So that's what makes our ecosystem work. So I appreciate very much this recognition, but I also want to recognize everybody who volunteers all the time. What I do particularly want to mention today, though, is to thank the companies that I had the pleasure of working for in this space for their support in allowing me to volunteer as I worked. As 2 decades sounds like a long time, I was a bit surprised when Louis mentioned that, but actually it's been longer than that. So I started doing volunteer work for TBI, which obviously morphed into LSO, in 1994. Some of you weren't born here. I met some students earlier. And when Bio came to Toronto, and Sanofi, so I started when it was Connaught and it became Sanofi, asked me to participate to help out with Bio, which I gladly did, and that morphed into a commitment to youth science education that I still do today. So through the following years, Sanofi, Seneca College, and then later Ontario Genomics all supported me very much in allowing me to do volunteer work, and in fact it was encouraged. And for that, I really want to thank them. It seems to me that that's become a staple in many businesses. I know many people who do that within their companies, and I want to encourage companies to continue to do that. It feeds the soul and makes happy employees. For the students out there, as I said, there's a few today. I volunteer for LSO because I really do believe that life science is a driving force that will benefit Ontario and it will benefit Canada. But there's been an added benefit to me, apart from the satisfaction I get, has been all the people, and I do know a lot of you who sit in this room, and I can call you not just colleagues but friends. And I've met you over the years, and in fact, for me, I actually changed careers through a volunteer opportunity. So I did volunteering and decided to go a different direction. So something to think about. So one more quick story about volunteering that I heard from the head of Habitat Humanity, because we all say we're all very busy. And this was a comment about Jimmy Carter. So Jimmy Carter, after he was no longer president, was monitoring free elections across the world, negotiating peace, but once a month he volunteered at his local community center to cut the grass, every month. So when people say to me, how can you find time? Well, I'm not negotiating peace, and I'm not monitoring free elections, so I try to find the time. Finally, I would like to thank my family, who are here tonight in force, and I really appreciate that. They all volunteer in their own way, something that our mother taught us. And I very much appreciate that they're all here and that they let me take the time away from the family to do that volunteering. So thank you very much to everybody.